when I was growing up, right, my parents would insist that I read the newspaper, right? That was kind of our start of the day basic hygiene stuff. You wake up in the morning, mom would say, pick up the newspaper, read at least one or two articles, helps you with your communication, tells you about what's happening around the world, right? But all of the articles in these newspapers were written and proofread by the editorial team, right? We used to get the Hindu, and by the way, I'm not endorsing Hindu here, but I'm just talking about my experience. We used to get the Hindu newspaper, and without fail, I would read at least one or two pages before I got to college, right? That was my way of learning about the world as well as improving your English. Back in the day, that was kind of the big deal, right? Now, what is happening today? One, newspapers are out of vogue. I barely see anybody reading newspapers. Second, most of the news content that we consume is not from even online news websites. It is from TikToks of the world. It is from the Instagrams of the world, right? Again, it's not good or bad. It's just that the medium of consumption has changed. Now, what people don't realize, though, is there is no edit. I mean, of course, these platforms have their own content moderation teams, but they're not the same as journalists and editors with high ethical standards who are checking and proofreading and publishing the best of for your consumption. These are user-generated UGC platforms where there are creators who are incentivized by views, who put up sensationalist, clickbaity headlines, or who have their own hidden motivations, and you're consuming content from these creators, right? How do you know the content that you're consuming has been proofread or has been authenticated? There is no way to tell, right? So what used to be content that had to be proofread as well as, and I still remember, right? Editors wouldn't publish articles without making sure that their source was 100% 100% accurate, right? They wouldn't put information in front of you unless it was legally defensible. So given that today anything flies, because you can be an anonymous creator, you can be a UGC creator who can just put content out there without having to prove anything to anyone. And unfortunately, and it's not the fault of the medium, it's just that and because people consume news content as well as entertainment from these platforms, what has happened is we're starting to see certain trends. People no longer care about hard news. People want entertainment. People want soft news. People want snackable news, is how I would call it, right? I'll give you one simple example, Pratishta. I was talking to one of my younger nephews in India a week back, and I was saying, hey, how inspirational it is that, these are people stuck in a tunnel and people are going all out to pull them out. My nephew in India did not even know about it. My nephew in India was more interested in some feed that he was hooked up to on Instagram. He knew more about what was happening in Morocco than what was happening in India. So hard news has been replaced by snackable news. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just that consumption trends have changed. Second, the news as a medium itself. There's more people consuming news from feed-based platforms, whether that's Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. And these are not platforms that have journalists on their payroll. Of course, you can still find a BBC or a CNN, and they have their channels, but then people don't necessarily follow these channels. Or if they do, it's one among many, because you're drowning in so much content. And then number three, visual medium is extremely compelling, right? And in the world of generative AI, you can completely create a make-believe video, fake, inauthentic, and yet believable, right? So the line between what is real and what's not real is very, very blurred. And if you are a Josh Mo or a John Doe, even if you go to the best of college, you can't tell, right? And so there is a difference between education and literacy. And this is where media literacy becomes extremely important, right? And I want to do some myth busting here. It's not that people in rural areas are more or less media literate compared to people in urban areas. I have seen plenty people in urban areas with sophisticated education still falling hook, line, and sinker to inauthentic content. So again, there's no one answer, but it's a multitude of things that's contributing to the fake news ecosystem. And last but not the least, I also feel like motivated actors tend to have a louder voice compared to authentic actors, right? Authentic users or authentic creators. We probably need more of the Pratishtas and the Amitabhs of the world. The problem is we get to see a lot more of the inauthentic content creators who know how to play the game much better than the Pratishtas of the world, right? Because they use this platform more so than the good creators, the authentic creators.